Jonathan Hayes, a billionaire known for his sharp business mind and cold demeanor, stood alone at his son's grave. His expensive suit did little to hide the weight of grief that had settled on his shoulders. It had been 5 years since his son, Stephen, had died in a tragic car accident, but the pain still felt fresh. Jonathan knelt down, placing a single white rose on the grave. "I miss you, son," he whispered, his voice breaking. He closed his eyes, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to fall, but just as he was about to stand up, he heard a soft rustling behind him. He turned around and saw a young girl, no older than 10, standing a few feet away. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and her face was smudged with grime. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. But what caught Jonathan's attention were her eyes, wide, fearful, and filled with a sadness that mirrored his own. "Who are you?" Jonathan asked, his voice firm but not unkind. The girl hesitated, clutching a small, tattered backpack to her chest. I'm Lily," she stammered. "I didn't mean to bother you. I needed a place to sleep." Jonathan frowned. "You're sleeping here in a cemetery?" Lily nodded, her eyes darting around as if she expected someone to jump out at any moment. "It's safer here. No one comes at night." Jonathan's heart ached for the girl, but something about her presence felt strange. Why was she here of all places? And why did she look so scared? "Where are your parents?" he asked gently. Lily's lower lip trembled. "I don't know, my mom. She disappeared a long time ago. And my dad." She trailed off, shaking her head. "I don't want to talk about it." Jonathan's curiosity grew. There was something about this girl, something that tugged at a memory he couldn't quite place. He took a step closer, but Lily flinched and took a step back. "It's okay," Jonathan said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Jonathan. I lost my son too." Lily's eyes widened, and for a moment she looked like she wanted to say something. But then she glanced over her shoulder, her body tense. "I have to go," she said quickly, turning to leave. "Wait!" Jonathan called out. "You don't have to go. Let me help you." Lily paused, her back still turned to him. "Why would you help me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jonathan didn't have an answer. He didn't know why he felt so compelled to help this girl, but something inside him told him he couldn't let her walk away. Because no one should have to go through this alone," he said finally. Lily turned around slowly, her eyes searching his face. For a moment it seemed like she might trust him. But then, from somewhere in the distance, a car door slammed and the sound made her jump, her face filled with panic. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I have to go." Before Jonathan could stop her, Lily darted off into the rows of graves, disappearing into the shadows. Jonathan stood there, stunned. Who was this girl? And who was she running from? As he turned back to his son's grave, a chilling thought crossed his mind. What if Lily's appearance wasn't a coincidence? What if she was connected to Stephen's death in some way? The rain began to fall, but Jonathan barely noticed. His mind was racing, and for the first time in years, he felt a spark of purpose. He needed to find Lily. He needed to know the truth. Jonathan didn't sleep that night. The image of Lily's frightened face haunted him. Who was she? Why was she running? And why did she appear at Stephen's grave of all places? The questions swirled in his mind, refusing to let him rest. By dawn, he had made up his mind. He would find her. He started by calling his private security team. "I need you to find a girl," he said, his voice firm. "Her name is Lily. She's about 10 years old, homeless, and was last seen at the cemetery. I want every camera, every lead followed. This is urgent." As he waited for updates, Jonathan couldn't shake the feeling that Lily's appearance was more than a coincidence. He pulled out an old photo album, flipping through pictures of Stephen. His son's bright smile stared back at him, a painful reminder of what he had lost. But as he stared at the photos, something else nagged at him, a memory he couldn't quite grasp. Later that afternoon, one of his security team members, Mark, called. "Sir, we found something. There's a homeless shelter downtown. A girl matching Lily's description was seen there a few days ago. She didn't stay long, but she left something behind. Jonathan's heart raced. What did she leave? A small notebook, Mark replied. It's mostly scribbles, but there's a name written inside. Stephen Hayes. Jonathan froze. Stephen's name? How did Lily know Stephen? His mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. Bring me the notebook, he ordered, and keep looking for her. When the notebook arrived, Jonathan examined it carefully. The pages were filled with childish drawings and random words, but one page stood out. In shaky handwriting it read, Stephen said I could trust him. But now he's gone. They took him. They took everything. Jonathan's hands trembled as he read the words. What did this mean? Who took Stephen? And what did Lily know about it? The more he thought about it, the more he realized that Stephen's death might not have been an accident after all. Determined to find answers, Jonathan decided to visit the homeless shelter himself. When he arrived, the staff recognized Lily from his description. She was here, one of the workers said. Quiet girl, kept to herself. But she seemed scared, like she was hiding from someone. Did she say anything about Stephen? Jonathan asked, holding up the notebook. The worker frowned. No, but she did ask about a man named Victor. She said he was dangerous and that he was looking for her. Victor. The name sent a chill down Jonathan's spine. He didn't know anyone by that name, but it was clear that Lily was terrified of him. Who was this man, and what did he want with her? As Jonathan left the shelter, his phone buzzed. It was Mark again. Sir, we have a lead. A witness saw a girl matching Lily's description near the old train station. She was with a man, tall, dark hair, driving a black SUV. Jonathan's pulse quickened. Send me the address. I'm going there now. When he arrived at the train station, it was deserted. The wind howled through the empty tracks and the air felt heavy with tension. Jonathan searched the area, calling out Lily's name, but there was no response. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed something on the ground, a small, tattered hairpin. It was the same one Lily had been wearing at the cemetery. He picked it up, his heart sinking. She had been here. But where was she now? And who was the man she was seen with? As Jonathan stood there clutching the hairpin, a car pulled up behind him. He turned around, his guard up, but it was just Mark. Sir, we need to talk, Mark said, his expression grim. I did some digging on the name Victor. You're not going to like what I found. Jonathan's stomach churned. What is it? Mark hesitated. Victor is a known criminal. He's been involved in human trafficking and black market deals. But here's the thing. He was also connected to your late wife, Claire. Jonathan's blood ran cold. Claire had disappeared years ago, shortly after Stephen's death. The police had ruled it as a tragic accident, but Jonathan had always suspected there was more to it. Now it seemed the pieces were starting to come together. What are you saying? Jonathan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mark looked him in the eye. I think Lily might be the key to uncovering what really happened to your family. Jonathan sat in his car, staring at the hairpin in his hand. His mind was a whirlwind of emotions, grief, anger, and a burning need for answers. Mark's words echoed in his head. Victor is connected to your late wife, Claire. How had he not known about this? How had he missed the signs? Tell me everything you know about Victor, Jonathan said, his voice low and steady. Mark handed him a file. Victor Kane. He's a dangerous man, involved in illegal activities for years. But here's the kicker. He was Claire's childhood friend. They grew up together. After she married you, they lost touch. But a few months before her disappearance, they reconnected. Jonathan's hands clenched into fists. Why didn't I know about this? Claire kept it hidden, Mark replied. From what I've gathered, Victor reached out to her, claiming he needed help. She was always kind-hearted, so she agreed to meet him. But after that, things changed. She became distant, secretive. And then, she vanished. Jonathan's heart ached as memories of Claire flooded back. Her laughter, her warmth, the way she always knew how to comfort him. He had blamed himself for her disappearance, thinking he hadn't been there for her when she needed him most. But now it seemed there was more to the story. "And Lily?" Jonathan asked. "How does she fit into all this?" Mark hesitated. "We're still piecing that together, but here's what we know. Lily's mother disappeared around the same time as Claire, and Lily has been on the run ever since. She's scared of Victor, and for good reason. He's been looking for her." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "We need to find her before he does." Just then Jonathan's phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. He answered cautiously. "Hello?" A shaky voice came through the line. "Mr. Hayes, it's Lily. I need your help." Jonathan's heart leapt. "Lily, where are you? Are you safe?" "I'm at the old factory by the river," she whispered. "But he's coming. I can hear his car. Please, hurry." The line went dead. Jonathan didn't waste a second. "Mark, get the team. We're going to the factory. Now." The old factory was a crumbling relic of the city's industrial past. Its broken windows and rusted gates gave it an eerie, abandoned feel. Jonathan and his team approached cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Lily!" Jonathan called out, his voice echoing through the empty halls. "It's me, Jonathan. I'm here to help you." There was no response. The silence was deafening. Jonathan's heart pounded as they searched the building room by room. Finally, in a corner of the factory, they found her. Lily was huddled under a pile of old blankets, her face pale and tear-streaked. She looked up at Jonathan, her eyes wide with fear. "He's here," she whispered. "I saw him." Before Jonathan could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the factory. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Jonathan motioned for his team to stay alert as he stepped in front of Lily, shielding her. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall man with dark hair and cold, calculating eyes. "Victor." "Well, well," Victor said, his voice dripping with mockery. "If it isn't Jonathan Hayes, I was wondering when you'd show up." Jonathan's blood boiled. "What do you want with her, Victor?" "She's just a child." Victor smirked. "She's more than that, and you know it. She's the key to everything. Claire knew it too. That's why she tried to protect her." Jonathan's breath caught. "What are you talking about? What does Claire have to do with this?" Victor's expression darkened. "Claire was a fool. She thought she could outsmart me, keep the girl hidden, but I found her. And now I'll finish what I started." Jonathan stepped forward, his voice firm. "You're not touching her. Not while I'm here." Victor laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You think you can stop me? You're just a broken man, clinging to the past. But fine. Let's settle this." The tension in the room was palpable. Jonathan's team moved closer, ready to act. But before anyone could make a move, Lily spoke up. "Wait," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "I know the truth. About Stephen. About everything." Jonathan turned to her, his heart pounding. "What do you mean, Lily?" She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. "Stephen didn't die in a car accident. He was murdered. And my mom saw it happen. That's why she disappeared. She was trying to protect me." Jonathan felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. Murdered? By who? Lily pointed a shaky finger at Victor. By him. Victor's smirk faded, replaced by a look of pure rage. "Enough!" he shouted, lunging toward Lily. But Jonathan was faster. He stepped in front of her, blocking Victor's path. "You're not getting near her," he said, his voice steady, despite the storm of emotions inside him. Victor glared at him, his eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over, Hayes. You can't protect her forever." With that, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Jonathan and his team standing in stunned silence. Jonathan knelt down in front of Lily, his hands trembling. "Is it true?" he asked softly. Did he kill Stephen?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Hayes. I didn't know how to tell you." Jonathan pulled her into a tight hug, his own tears falling. "It's not your fault, Lily. None of this is your fault. But I promise you, we're going to make this right. Together." Jonathan brought Lily back to his mansion, a place that had felt empty and cold for years but now seemed to hum with a fragile sense of hope. He made sure she was fed, bathed, and given clean clothes. As she sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, Jonathan couldn't help but notice how small and vulnerable she looked. Yet there was a strength in her eyes, a resilience that reminded him of Claire. "Lily," Jonathan began, gently sitting across from her, "I need you to tell me everything you know about Stephen, about Victor, about your mom. Please, I need to understand." Lily hesitated, clutching the blanket tightly. It's a lot," she whispered. "And it's scary." Jonathan reached out and placed a hand on hers. "I know it's scary, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Together, we can figure this out." Lily took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, my mom, her name was Sarah. She worked for Victor a long time ago. She didn't know how bad he was at first, but then she found out he was doing terrible things, hurting people, stealing even killing. She wanted to leave, but Victor wouldn't let her. He said she knew too much." Jonathan's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent, letting Lily continue. "One night," Lily said, her voice trembling, "my mom saw something she wasn't supposed to. She saw Victor hurt someone, a boy. She didn't know who he was at the time, but later she found out it was Stephen." Jonathan's heart shattered all over again. He had spent years believing Stephen's death was an accident, but now he was faced with the horrifying truth. His son had been murdered. He clenched his fists, trying to keep his emotions in check. "Go on," he said softly. "My mom was scared," Lily continued. "She knew Victor would come after her if he found out she saw what happened, so she ran. She took me with her, and we've been hiding ever since. But Victor found us a few months ago. He took my mom. I don't know where she is now." Tears streamed down Lily's face, and Jonathan felt his own eyes welling up. He moved to sit beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "I'm so sorry, Lily, for everything you've been through. But I promise you, we're going to find your mom, and we're going to make Victor pay for what he's done." Lily looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. "Do you really think we can stop him?" Jonathan nodded firmly. "Yes, but I need your help. Do you remember anything else? Anything that could help us find Victor or your mom?" Lily thought for a moment, then her eyes lit up. "There's one thing. My mom kept a journal. She wrote everything down, what she saw, what Victor did, everything. She hid it before Victor took her. I think it's still out there." Jonathan's heart raced. "Do you know where it is?" Lily nodded. "Yes. It's in a safe place, but it's dangerous to go there. Victor's men are always watching." Jonathan squeezed her hand. "We'll be careful, but we need that journal, Lily. It's the key to bringing Victor down." The next morning, Jonathan and Lily set out to retrieve the journal. Lily directed him to an old abandoned library on the outskirts of the city. The building was crumbling, its windows broken, and its doors hanging off their hinges. But Lily seemed to know exactly where to go. "It's in the basement," she whispered as they crept inside. "My mom hid it behind a loose brick in the wall." They made their way downstairs, the air thick with dust and the smell of decay. Jonathan's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing rows of old, rotting bookshelves. Finally, they reached the far wall, and Lily pointed to a spot near the floor. "There," she said. "That's where it is." Jonathan knelt down and carefully pried the loose brick out of the wall. Behind it was a small, leather-bound journal. He pulled it out and handed it to Lily. "Is this it?" he asked. Lily nodded, clutching the journal to her chest. "Yes, this is it." As they turned to leave, a noise echoed through the basement, a loud metallic clang. Jonathan's heart skipped a beat. "We need to go, now." They hurried back up the stairs, but as they reached the main floor, they were met with a chilling sight. Standing in the doorway was Victor, flanked by 2 armed men. "Leaving so soon?" Victor sneered. "And here I thought we could have a little chat." Jonathan stepped in front of Lily, shielding her. "You're not getting near her, Victor. Not this time." Victor's eyes narrowed. "You think you can stop me, Hayes? You're out of your league. Hand over the girl and the journal, and maybe I'll let you walk away." Jonathan's grip tightened on the flashlight, his only weapon. "Not a chance." Victor smirked. Have it your way. He nodded to his men and they moved forward, their guns raised. Jonathan knew they were outnumbered, but he wasn't going down without a fight. Just as the men closed in, a loud crash echoed through the library. The sound startled everyone, and in the chaos, Jonathan grabbed Lily's hand and ran. They burst out of the library and into the daylight, not stopping until they reached the car. Jonathan started the engine and sped away, his heart pounding. Are you okay? He asked Lily, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. She nodded, still clutching the journal. I'm okay. But what do we do now? Jonathan's expression hardened. Now, we fight back. We have the journal, Lily. We have the truth. And with that, we can bring Victor down once and for all. Back at the mansion, Jonathan and Lily sat at the kitchen table, the journal lying between them. The room was quiet, the weight of what they were about to uncover hanging heavy in the air. Lily reached out and opened the journal, her small hands trembling slightly. My mom wrote everything in here, she said softly. Everything she saw, everything she knew about Victor. Jonathan nodded, his heart pounding. Let's start from the beginning. As they flipped through the pages, the story unfolded in Sarah's neat handwriting. She had documented everything: Victor's illegal activities, his connections to powerful people, and most importantly, the night Stephen died. Lily read aloud, her voice shaky but clear. October 12th. I saw something tonight that I can never forget. Victor met with a group of men in an abandoned warehouse. They were arguing about money, about a deal gone wrong. And then Victor lost his temper. He grabbed a boy, just a teenager, and... Lily's voice broke and she looked up at Jonathan, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I can't. Jonathan took the journal from her, his hands trembling as he read the next lines. Victor killed him right there in front of everyone. He didn't even hesitate. The boy's name was Stephen Hayes. I'll never forget the look on his face. He was so young, so innocent. Jonathan felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. He had known the truth, but reading it in black and white was like a knife to the heart. He closed his eyes, trying to steady himself. Keep going, he said hoarsely. We need to know everything. Lily nodded and continued reading. The journal revealed that Sarah had tried to go to the police, but Victor had threatened her life. She had gone into hiding, taking Lily with her, but Victor had never stopped looking for her. The journal also contained names, dates, and locations, evidence that could bring Victor down. But the most shocking revelation came near the end of the journal. Lily's voice grew quieter as she read the final entry. I don't know how much time I have left. Victor is getting closer, but there's something else I need to say. Claire Hayes, Stephen's mother, she knew about Victor. She was trying to stop him too. She disappeared because she got too close to the truth. I don't know if she's alive or dead, but if anyone finds this journal, please help her. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. Claire. She was trying to stop Victor. Lily nodded. It sounds like she was working with my mom. They were both trying to bring him down. Jonathan's mind raced. All these years he had thought Claire's disappearance was unrelated to Stephen's death. But now, it was clear that everything was connected. Victor had taken everything from him, his son, his wife, his happiness. And now he was going to pay. We need to take this to the police, Jonathan said, his voice firm. With this journal, we have enough evidence to put Victor away for life. But Lily shook her head. It's not that simple. Victor has people everywhere. Cops, judges, even politicians. If we go to the police, he'll find out. And he'll come after us. Jonathan frowned. Then what do we do? Lily hesitated, then looked up at him with determination in her eyes. We take him down ourselves. We expose him to the world. If everyone knows what he's done, no one can protect him. Jonathan stared at her, amazed by her courage. You're just a kid, Lily. You shouldn't have to carry this burden. I'm not just a kid, Lily said firmly. I've been running from Victor my whole life. I'm tired of being scared. I want to fight back. And I know you do too. Jonathan nodded slowly. You're right, I do. But we need a plan. A good one. Over the next few days, Jonathan and Lily worked tirelessly to piece together a plan. They reached out to a trusted journalist, someone who had a reputation for exposing corruption. They shared the contents of the journal along with the evidence they had gathered. The journalist agreed to help, but warned them that going public would be dangerous. "Once this story breaks, there's no going back," the journalist said. "Victor will come after you with everything he's got." Jonathan looked at Lily, then back at the journalist. "We're ready." The story was published the next day. It spread like wildfire, front-page news, headlines screaming about Victor's crimes. The public was outraged, and the pressure on law enforcement was immense. Within hours, Victor's empire began to crumble. But Jonathan knew it wasn't over. Victor was a cornered animal, and cornered animals were the most dangerous. He and Lily stayed hidden, waiting for the storm to pass. Late that night, as they sat in the safe house Jonathan had arranged, Lily turned to him. "Do you think it's over?" she asked quietly. Jonathan shook his head. "Not yet. But we've dealt him a major blow. And we're not alone anymore. The whole world knows what he's done. He can't hide forever." Lily nodded, leaning against him. "I just want my mom back." Jonathan wrapped an arm around her, his heart aching for the girl who had been through so much. "We'll find her, Lily. I promise." The safe house was quiet. The only sound, the soft hum of the television as Jonathan and Lily watched the news. Victor's empire was crumbling. His associates were being arrested, his businesses shut down, and his name dragged through the mud. But Jonathan knew better than to let his guard down. Victor was still out there, and he would be desperate. As if on cue, Jonathan's phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" Victor's voice came through, cold and menacing. "You think you've won, Hayes? You think you can destroy me and walk away? Think again." Jonathan's grip tightened on the phone. "What do you want, Victor?" "I want what's mine," Victor snarled. "The girl, the journal, and you. Meet me at the old warehouse by the docks. Come alone, or I'll make sure you regret it." The line went dead. Jonathan stared at the phone, his mind racing. He knew it was a trap, but he also knew he had no choice. Victor would keep coming after them unless he was stopped for good. Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear. "What did he say?" Jonathan knelt down in front of her, placing his hands on her shoulders. "Victor wants to meet. He's desperate, Lily. This is our chance to end this." Lily shook her head. "Number. It's too dangerous. He'll hurt you." Jonathan gave her a small, reassuring smile. "I'm not going to let him win, but I need you to stay here where it's safe. Promise me you'll stay." Lily's lower lip trembled, but she nodded. "Okay. But please, be careful." Jonathan hugged her tightly. "I will, I promise." The warehouse by the docks was dark and foreboding, its broken windows like hollow eyes staring out into the night. Jonathan parked his car a block away and approached on foot, his heart pounding. He had no idea what he was walking into, but he knew he couldn't back down. As he stepped inside, the sound of footsteps echoed through the empty space. Victor emerged from the shadows, a gun in his hand and a cold smile on his face. "I knew you'd come," Victor said. "You always were a fool." Jonathan held up his hands, showing he was unarmed. "It's over, Victor. The police are onto you. You can't run forever." Victor laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You think I care about the police? I've survived worse than this. But you've been a thorn in my side for too long. And now, you're going to pay." Jonathan's eyes narrowed. "Where's Claire? And Sarah? What did you do to them?" Victor's smile widened. "Claire was a nuisance, just like you. She thought she could outsmart me, but she was wrong. As for Sarah, let's just say she's no longer a problem." Jonathan's blood boiled, but he forced himself to stay calm. "You're not going to get away with this, Victor. Not this time." Victor raised the gun, aiming it at Jonathan's chest. "Oh, I think I will." Before Victor could pull the trigger, a voice rang out. "Stop." Jonathan turned to see Lily standing in the doorway, her small frame silhouetted against the moonlight. In her hands was the journal. "Lily!" Jonathan shouted. "I told you to stay back!" But Lily stepped forward, her eyes locked on Victor. "You're not going to hurt him," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "And you're not going to hurt anyone else ever again." Victor laughed, lowering the gun slightly. "And what are you going to do, little girl? You think you can stop me?" Lily held up the journal. "This has everything. Your crimes, your secrets, everything. And if you hurt us, it'll be released to the world. Everyone will know what you've done." Victor's smile faded, replaced by a look of pure rage. "You think you can blackmail me? You're just a child." "Maybe," Lily said, her voice steady. "But I'm not afraid of you anymore." Victor's eyes darted between Lily and Jonathan, his grip tightening on the gun. For a moment, it seemed like he might shoot them both. But then, the sound of sirens filled the air, growing louder by the second. Victor's face twisted in fury. "You called the police?" Jonathan shook his head. "Number. But someone did." Victor turned to run, but it was too late. The warehouse was surrounded, police cars screeching to a halt outside. Officers stormed in, their guns drawn. "Victor Kane," one of them shouted, "drop your weapon and put your hands in the air." Victor hesitated, his eyes darting around the room. For a moment it seemed like he might try to fight his way out. But then, with a snarl of frustration, he dropped the gun and raised his hands. As the police moved in to arrest him, Jonathan rushed to Lily's side, pulling her into a tight hug. "You shouldn't have come," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You could have been hurt." Lily hugged him back, her small frame trembling. "I couldn't let you face him alone, not after everything." Jonathan held her close, tears streaming down his face. "You're so brave, Lily. So brave." As Victor was led away in handcuffs, Jonathan and Lily stood together, watching as the man who had caused them so much pain was finally brought to justice. But even as relief washed over them, Jonathan knew their journey wasn't over. "We'll find your mom," he said softly, looking down at Lily. "No matter what it takes." Lily nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. "I know we will. Together." The weeks that followed Victor's arrest were a whirlwind of activity. The evidence from Sarah's journal, combined with the testimonies of others who had been victimized by Victor, led to a swift and decisive trial. Victor was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Jonathan and Lily, it was a bittersweet victory. Justice had been served, but the scars of the past remained. One afternoon, as they sat together in the garden of Jonathan's mansion, Lily turned to him with a question that had been weighing on her mind. "Do you think we'll ever find my mom?" Jonathan looked at her, his heart aching for the hope in her voice. "I don't know, Lily. But I promise you, we'll never stop looking. And no matter what happens, you'll always have a home with me." Lily smiled, a small but genuine smile that lit up her face. "Thank you, Jonathan, for everything." Jonathan reached out and took her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Thank you, Lily. You've given me something I thought I'd lost forever. A reason to hope." As the months passed, Jonathan and Lily began to rebuild their lives. Jonathan used his resources to fund shelters and programs for homeless children, determined to make sure no child would have to suffer as Lily had. Lily, in turn, thrived under Jonathan's care. She started school, made friends, and slowly began to heal from the trauma of her past. One day, as they were going through old boxes in the attic, Lily found a photo album she had never seen before. She opened it and gasped. "Jonathan, look!" Jonathan peered over her shoulder and felt his breath catch. The album was filled with pictures of Claire, smiling, laughing, full of life. And in many of the photos, she was with a woman who looked strikingly like Lily. "That's my mom," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. She knew Claire, they were friends. Jonathan nodded, his eyes filling with tears. "They were more than friends, Lily. They were family. And now, so are we." Lily looked up at him, her eyes shining with tears. "Do you think Do you think they'd be proud of us? Jonathan pulled her into a hug, his voice thick with emotion. I know they would. And I know they'd want us to be happy. Years later, Jonathan and Lily stood together at Stephen's grave, the sun shining brightly overhead. Lily, now a teenager, placed a bouquet of flowers on the headstone. Hi, Stephen, she said softly. It's me, Lily. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing us together. Jonathan placed a hand on her shoulder, his heart full. He'd be proud of you, Lily, just like I am. Lily smiled, leaning into him. I'm proud of you too, Jonathan. You're the best dad anyone could ask for. Jonathan's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. In Lily he had found a second chance, a chance to love, to heal, and to build a future filled with hope. As they walked away from the grave, hand in hand, Jonathan knew that their journey wasn't over. There would still be challenges, still be moments of pain and doubt, but they would face them together, as a family. And for the first time in a long time, Jonathan felt at peace.
Subscribe and press the bell icon so that you never miss the amazing video.